I find a lot of developers do because they oftentimes work remotely and have a lot of freedom to do what they want to do. Cool. Anyone else want to share? So it's flexibility, traveling. It's awesome. Supervise a coding club. Oh, that's cool. Would you want to do more, Cindy, than just supervising? Have you thought about even entering the profession or?
Honestly, not really. I haven't really thought about it because I've always wanted to be a teacher, so I'm pretty happy with my profession. But like it's not a closed door, I guess. I just haven't really thought about
Hmm. Maybe you could be a coding teacher. You can join Popcorn Robot, be one of our mentors.
it. That would be fun.
Yeah. Actually, we really have a lot of fun teaching at Popcorn Robot. So what we do a little bit differently is that since we spend a lot more time with each student. So, I mean, generally, like in college, like so, I teach at UCLA, right? So what happens is that the one part of college is that you only get it for like 10 weeks, 1 quarter, and it's kind of like a moving through a quick carousel. So we don't really get the time with them. But one thing we do here is that we get to spend more time with people, and then you get to develop a relationship. And I've met a lot of my students' parents. These are type of things that's really cool. But yeah, if you like teaching, that's wonderful. Anyone else want to share what they like about or what they're hoping coding can bring to their life? So I see here a lot of flexibility, traveling. What else is some exciting things that you guys have on your dreams and agenda?
Good question.
Anyone else?
All right, I guess I'll go.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to change career, so I thought coding would be a fun career field to get into.
Right.
So yeah, I want to do this.
So what is it? Why do you want to change careers, and what are you hoping? Why did you choose coding in the sense that what are you hoping it's going to bring to your life?
To be honest, it looks fun. That's one. Two, I think I don't know. It looks fun. I want to do something, I want to make my own application. I want to make my own website. Things
What
like
about
that.
it? What about it looks fun to you?
I think like finishing a project would be fun. I think getting to that, doing that journey and completing that project, I think that's a fun experience of it.
So is it to be able to create something, the creativity, and be able to finish it and have something like in front of your hands? Oh, that's wonderful. And why do you feel that's important to you? Like, what is it about that makes you like? Why does it like stimulate you and kind of drive you?
It drives me because, to be honest, I don't really have a big answer,
No, you don't have
but
to.
it's yeah, it just looks fun and I want to get into it.
Okay, very cool. Yeah. One of the things about coding is that the possibilities are endless. So once you master coding, then you can create video games. You can create, iPhone apps. You can create your own website. You can have whatever you want to create. And that like power is incredible. It's the closest thing we have to magic. Like name any other skill in this world where you can think of an idea and then create it like that without any huge costs. So imagine you wanted to go create like iPhones or something, like cell phones. My God, do you know how much that costs? It costs billions of dollars to develop the hardware itself. And you want to do a restaurant. It's amazing how expensive it is and the risk. But software is very special in the sense that we can create things and it can pump out really quickly and the costs are so minimal. And again, that's what makes coders so attractive to the population, because this is they want us to use this skill for them and to reduce their load and to make things easier for them. And it really just cuts things down, makes things so much easier. And it's just an incredible skill to know today. I see. I like that coding is a challenge yet fun field and offers continuous learning opportunities. Absolutely. That's something that's so true. One of the things about is that you're constantly learning. Especially if you enjoy it, that's one of the things that really turns into something powerful, because when you enjoy it and you learn it, and you constantly updating yourself with it, it's really amazing. So it's really awesome. So we're gonna get started right now. Thank you guys for sharing. I really appreciate that. So just to introduce myself, my name is AJ. So I teach at UCLA. I teach graduate courses there. I also teach at Popcorn Robot. Popcorn Robot is my own personal, I'm creating this mentorship school. So basically UCLA is kind of me having one foot in the traditional education world, and then Popcorn Robot is one where I kind of said, you know what if we created an education from the ground up with modern, using everything we know about modern learning techniques, and said, okay, let's do that. So that's where Popcorn Robot is. And unlike UCLA, where I only get you guys for 1 quarter, here I get you guys, for a year, 2 years, whatever, however long it takes your education. And the difference between that is that I get to learn about you guys a lot more in depth. So in our classes, what we do is I'll watch you guys code. And since I've been coding for so long and teaching for so long, now I can actually pick up a lot of behaviors about you guys. So if you were to ask me about any of my students' strengths, weaknesses, what their prescription is to get better, and what their dreams are, I can list them all out, like A to Z. But then for my UCLA students, I can't do that as much because we don't have that type of relationship. But that's kind of the real quick about my education life. Before I went to education, I worked as a consultant. So I started out as a software consultant, working as a software consultant, which is, to me, it's really fun. One of the things that's really cool about it, so I think someone mentioned, you get to continuously learn new opportunities, all these stuff. That is where I think consulting really thrives in. So what you do as a consultant is you go to a company, and a company is always like, oh, I have demands, I have needs, this is what I want. And you would go in and solve their problems. And because you don't know you can't control what technology stack they're using or whatever. It's really fun because you get to learn all different facets of their world. So I've worked in everything from the automotive world. I've worked in Hollywood world. I've worked in the pharmaceutical medical world, and working as a consultant has kind of given me a peek at all these different industries, and I thought that was really neat. And we are working, and our consulting firm is one of the top of the country, so we got to see like these Fortune 500 companies just really get a good look at what they're looking up to, what they work, what they do, how they work on the inside. So that was really cool on my end, and I really enjoyed it. But yeah, I really felt that one of the things that's lacking in coding, coding moves really fast into really high tech industry, but one of the things I felt we still were really behind in is education. It's like, how could something that is so advanced be so behind on another important element of it? And it's crazy to me, because if you were to learn today, you'd be using the same books I used 20 some years ago. And that just doesn't make sense to me. So that was something I thought I wanted to go into education and change, because I think we can make it more fun. I think we can make you guys better. And the results have been really stunning so far. So the short end of my introduction. Anyone have any questions for me before we get started? No questions?
I have a quick question.
Yeah.
Why is Python always, or the first code language to learn from? Like, there's so many out there, but why do most places default to Python? Is it because most places use Python, is easier to learn, but why is that the first introductory language?
So there's a little trick to this whole stuff. One thing about coding that a lot of people don't understand is that they think that coding, like learning a language, is like learning Spanish and Japanese and that type of stuff. It's not to that level. One of the things about coding is that once you master one language, your ability to learn another language is extremely fast and quick. And then you learn a second one and third one, and then you just keep continually snowballing in that regard. So once you can master one language extremely well, then your ability to learn all the other languages just like kind of the learning curve just kind of bends down. So if you were to ask me how many languages I learn, I know, I can almost say infinite. I know them all. You give me any language and within 1 week, I'll be completely proficient with it. Proficient in the sense that like you wouldn't be able to even tell that I never used that language before. So then going back to your question, why Python? Why Python? Because it is at one of the most important nexuses, intersections. One is that it's simple and concise. Other languages can be very wordy and very complicated. As a new developer, that is very difficult for you guys. One of the things that Python does is it makes an attempt to understand what you're trying to say. Other languages are very specific and they expect perfection. So that is good when you're dealing with life-threatening software like medical software, or if you're putting your software onto a Black Hawk helicopter. That's where you want to be like demand perfection. But if you're not doing things with life-threatening stuff, that's good. Simple is good. And then the other thing is that it's also powerful. So it can do a lot. It is an industry standard. If you learn Scratch, I don't know Scratch, but if you learn it, you can't use it for anything that's industry related. Whereas Python, you can use it for data science. You can use it to download, extract data from online. It's just so many uses it can be used for. So because it's simple and powerful, it's at a really good cross section. So you learn Python, it's going to give you that good solid introduction to how computer languages work. And that's a good start. And once you master that, you learning C#, Ruby, Java, all that just kind of melts away and it becomes really simple.
That was a great explanation, AJ. Thank you.
Cool. But yeah, I'm going to tell you guys one thing. A lot of people get caught on that question. What language should I learn? I'm going to do video games. So let me give you the wrong answer. So let's say I want to create video games. And one of the popular languages they use in video games is C#. So if I'm like a game developer, sometimes they'll say like, oh, you should learn C# because that's a language we use for video games. Oh, you want to be a video game developer? We use C#, learn C#. Wrong answer. It's a lot easier for you to learn and master Python and then go to another language than it is for you to learn C#. So it's just, you want to get the fundamentals, the foundation built. And the easiest language to do that is Python. So don't spend any time thinking about it anymore. You guys all know the answer. Just hit it and go. That way you guys can spend the time coding, which is far more important and relevant.
Got it.
Are you using interpreter or you use Python through the terminal? We're going to be using Replit, which is going to be like this year IDE, online IDE. Cool. Any other questions? All right, go ahead and hit that page. I'm going to share my screen so you guys can see me do it as well.
One other quick question, AJ. Are we gonna get a copy of this recording later?
Yeah, I can even put it onto YouTube. Yeah.
Oh, okay, great. Continue. Go ahead. Thank you.
Yeah, and building along with the answer to that, when you are learning a framework, the concept of that is also very similar. Once you master one framework, your ability to learn another one, the learning curve diminishes tremendously. And so that's how software consultants do it. So the question is, how can I go into a company and they say, do you know this language or technology? And I say no, and I can still charge them $200-300 an hour to build their software. when I have no expertise? Like, that doesn't make sense. How can a developer charge $200, $300 an hour for expertise in a technology they don't know anything of? And it's going back to that question, that answer I was saying, which is, once you build a strong foundation, once you build that strong foundation, you master coding, you can learn things on the fly. And so whether you want to make a video game or whatever, like, I've never built a video game before. I've never went to a class for it. But if you were to ask me to build a video game in 3 months, I have very strong confidence that in 3 months, I'm going to make a banging video game that is going to be awesome. And it's just because my understanding of the framework and technology and how this stuff works is very quick. And you guys can do the same. That's why you guys have to master coding. And it really means getting started. You don't want to get stuck on questions that doesn't really move you guys forward. So that's something I do want to emphasize with you guys. So I can kind of see you guys. Yeah, so getting started is very important. A lot of people spend so much time doing things that are not related to coding, like answering questions, like, looking these questions up, like, is this right for me, whatever. Just try it. Then you'll know whether or not coding is the right thing for you. All right, so I'm gonna get started. If you guys have any questions, feel free to ask. So coding is the art of using robots to solve problems. And today we're using computers to do our bidding. I really want to emphasize something. You guys are, okay, first I want to commend you guys. Most of these people in this world, when they don't like something about their life, all they do is complain and say, like, I know, like, it's someone else's fault. You guys are very different in that. And that's the thing I noticed about people who are trying to come out to my classes. You guys are at least trying to make making actions to change your life, to improve your life. You guys, I have heard everything from, you want to travel, you want to have flexibility. Of course, I'm sure money's in there. And that is super important that you guys identify that and want to move forward with it. And one thing I do want to emphasize in terms of mindset in coding, and this is super, super important, I want you guys to reframe your concept of success. So success does not mean like, am I making things work all the time? Because a lot of times I'll have new coders that come in and they'll get stuck on something and then they call themselves stupid or I'm dumb, I'm an idiot, whatever. Wrong. You guys are actively trying to change your life. And because of that, that is the measure of success. Everything else is just extra gravy. So you guys putting in effort to change your life, that's where success starts from. And so you guys being here today and being, spending your time learning how to code as opposed to watching Netflix, which is, something awesome. You guys are doing something to change your life. And that's really awesome. And coding is the most important skill you can learn today. Coding is so valuable. Everyone wants to hire coders. I just saw an article where they said that there's more coders outside of the tech industry than inside the tech industry. And all my students are proof of this. Everyone is trying to hire our coders because, whether you're in the embroidery or clothing industry, fashion or Hollywood, whatever, everyone, they're trying to, housing industry, they're all trying to hire our coders because every industry knows that coders have the ability to automate their problems and give more accurate information. And so by learning how to code, you guys are being able to do that. So that's what makes you guys really valuable as coders. And being able to use computers to do work for us is an incredible thing, an incredible value that's going to bring to companies. So what can code do? So code has impacted our world so heavily that it's difficult to remember what it's like. So let's take a look at what life looked like before coding. So I'm a little bit older than you guys, maybe. I don't know how old you guys are. But there used to be things called magazines. Now, I know you don't even know what those are today, but there used to be things called magazines. And you can go and buy magazines and get the latest, like the latest content and stuff. And you can even have mail to your house. I know there's this thing called like a mailbox, and you actually get like magazines in there. It's amazing. And this was like where we got all our information from. Like if you play video games or gardening, this is all where it came from. And then what happened? The internet came and just completely destroyed that industry. So before we needed people to, like writers, to write content. Now people are writing for us every day. Like look at Wikipedia, right? Look at IMDb, all this stuff. Everyone's like writing content all the time. These, social media, before we used to have to hire the best editors to cultivate the content, but now we're just upvoting on Twitter. We're upvoting on Reddit and liking on or favoriting. I don't know on what is it, like or favorite on Twitter, all this stuff. And it's creating, we're doing all that stuff for us. And these are things that we could only do if we had code. Code allowed us to do this stuff. But if we were having human beings do it, there's no way we can do it. And so that's why this stuff has amplified to a level that we can't even imagine. Now it's becoming we're coming to a point where we're starting to ask, should we do it as opposed to can we do it? And so that's a really powerful thing. But the fact that we're now holding this endless power and addictive, we're like engineering addiction, like all this stuff, like the reason why you guys scroll on TikTok and YouTube and all that stuff, it's all engineered. Like we all planned this out to get you guys addicted. And that's why it's so powerful, because companies want to get your attention. And so this is just one way that we're using code to just change our world. And some may argue it's for the better, some may argue it's for the worse, but there's no doubt that no matter what, this is the way the world is now, because the impact has been so huge that we're not even going to be able to imagine another world outside of it anymore. I mean, just imagine like dating. Like, again, I don't know if you guys understand this, but dating like 15 years ago is completely different than it was today. And I don't even understand the landscape anymore, but it's crazy. And, this whole Tinder and all that stuff has completely changed how people perceive even relationships with people. And it all starts with code, because we're using code to kind of create something that can, I don't even know the word, turn like relationships into data. All right. So of course it's become so powerful that now it's now become ethical, right? So, are the algorithms manipulating the masses? I mean, I think Elon Musk has released a Twitter files, and then it was showing that, Twitter was on purpose suppressing the conservatives, that they were, the conservatives were really accusing Twitter of doing that. And now we're finding out it's actually true. Are they too effective? Are we being like addicted to things? And is it causing depression, right? Is AI like going to generate hate speech? All these things, right? And it just, again, it's because like code is becoming so powerful that it's almost dangerous. And let me tell you guys, the new AI stuff, completely groundbreaking. Like we saw crypto, we saw virtual reality stuff, and nothing of that compares to AI. So I use AI every day now. So I use AI for, I did ChatGPT. So I use that to help me write and come up with ideas all the time. And it's so powerful, and it's just going to amplify everything we do. And as a coder, it's going to amplify everything we do. So it's really important to note something. It cannot replace the human element at this point. This is still something that we still need humans. And so what it's going to do, though, is that it's going to make the best coders even better. So if you were to say like, oh, is ChatGPT gonna eliminate, coders? So why should I learn how to code if AI is going to eliminate coders? It's completely opposite. Not the way you think it's working. It's not going to eliminate us. What it's going to do is going to make the best people better. And so think about it, it's like a 10 to 15% increase in speed. So if you kind of think about it like that, so if you're running at 100 miles an hour, then you're going to be like 110 miles an hour. But you're running at 10,000 miles an hour, then it's going to be running at, it's going to give you 1,000. What's 10%? It's going to give you 1,000 miles an hour increase. So that's the whole thing. The faster you are, the more it's going to amplify you. And so that's the thing that AI is going to do. It's going to make coders even more valuable, because it's going to even make them even better, even solve even more problems, because now it's almost like a calculator, right? Now we don't have to spend our mindless time doing things that we don't need, the redundant part. Now we can just order it to do it. Boom, we get it. And then we're going to have to continue forward. Unfortunately, you still need to learn how to code, because whatever it generates, you have to figure out whether or not that is what you need or not. So that's one thing that I really want to get clear. It still needs a competent coder. And so the barrier is just going to, the effectiveness gap is going to be bigger because of AI. And it just got started. They just started this stuff. So this is version 1, which means it's not that great. Wait until 5 years from now. It's going to be amazing. So that's where we're at right now. Okay. Any questions? No? All right.
Quick question. Or maybe you're going to answer this later, but are we going to work in groups or team up with people, or is it just going to be like just more of a lecture style?
We're gonna we have problems that you guys are gonna work on, and then if you have questions, I'll kind of work with you guys on it.
Okay, great.
Right? All right.
Yep. Thank you.
All right. So why are you gonna learn coding? Again, it's super important. It's good pay. Working wrong. Actually, you guys all know the reason why, so I don't even have to go over this. Like one of my students, he used to work in finance, hated his job, hated his work, hated his company. He learned coding, and when he applied to Airbnb, they saw his work history and they're like, okay, you look normal, right? But then he said, hey, but I can code. And once they saw that, they're like, wow, you're special. Boom, put him in there. And now he has golden handcuffs. I asked him, are you ever do you think you can ever leave? He's like, no, I'm stuck here, man. Like once you work at a place like this, you can't leave anymore. So that's how valuable people are in the industry. People are just grabbing them up. So that's another thing that I do want to tell you guys before we start the coding. You got to understand something. Again, there's more coders outside of the tech industry than inside the tech industry now. So what does that mean? That means every industry is desperate to hire coders. So whatever career you guys are doing right now, whatever experience you have right now, you got to understand something. When you learn coding, you are not rebooting a career from scratch. What you are doing, you are amplifying. It's the same thing as everything is amplification. So it's amplifying. So imagine this. If you had a marketer with 3 years of marketing experience, and then imagine you're going to hire someone. You have a marketer with 15 years of marketing experience versus somebody with only 3 years of marketing experience, but she can code. Who will you hire, right? It amplifies everything you do. It's like multiplied by 10. Everything you do. And immediately we all know I'm going to hire that 3-year marketer with coding experience. It's just obvious. And that's the whole thing that coding does. So you got to understand, I have marketer students where she doubled her salary just by saying I can code, because it's so valuable. Because now she's working on their platform. She's working on automating a lot of their client emails, all these things. She can do that. Nobody else can do. And she's still being a marketer, but she's just the best at what she can do because nobody else can compete with her on that level. So that's the one thing I want to get across to before we start coding, is that when you guys learn how to code, so let's say you're a marketer and let's say you know how to code, you immediately go into the 1% because you are the best marketer who can code. So it's like a Venn diagram, right? And you become the best marketer who can code. So super valuable. You guys can do this, and you guys, as long as you get this skill underneath you. So super valuable. And so I really encourage you guys to keep doing it. All right, coding fundamentals. Let's get started. All right, when you're going to write coding, there's really 4 basic lines of coding: statement, variables, conditions, and loops. Those are the main 4 things you're going to do. Today, we're going to learn 2 of them, right? And what we're going to do is we're going to use an IDE. So IDEs are just like Microsoft Word for coders, right? So it's going to be what we're going to use to write code. So what I want you guys to do is click on this Replit link. And then if you don't have an account, create an account right now. And you guys can get started. I'll give you guys about 2 or 3 minutes just to create an account. And if anyone has any questions while we give you guys that time, you guys can do it. So click on Replit, make your account. Give you guys a couple of minutes to do it. If anyone has any question about coding, now's a good
No, I
time.
have a question about the IDE that you're using. I can't click on that link because you're on my phone right now. Is it
Oh.
possible? Can you just tell me what IDE is and I'll download it? I'll Google it.
It's free. I put it in the chat if you can see it. It's Replit, R-E-P-L-I-T.
Thank you. It's hard for me to see. Thanks.
Unfortunately, you're on your phone, so you can't.
Yeah, but I have my computer on the side, so.
That's good. Tai Jung?
Yeah, is there anything specific we have to use this IDE, or like we could just use
No.
any IDE, right?
Use any IDE. This is
Yeah,
just
you can use any
easy.
IDE.
Yep. Very good question. Yeah. I gave you a link to popcornrobot.com/python101 if you want to see the lesson that we're gonna. You need a link to the lesson, so that will help you. All right. So I'm going to create my Replit. I'm going to show you guys what it looks like, how we're going to get started, and how it works. Okay. All right. So if you guys want to take a look at my computer. All right. So if you are, hello, you need to join, click here and create an account here, the new person that joined. Okay. All right. So now we have Replit. Replit, again, it's just an IDE. It's like Microsoft Word for coders. I'm going to simplify things just so you guys understand. Code is just text. So when you're running something amazing like a video game and stuff, it's just text. It's crazy, but it is just text. So we're going to show you how this works. When you get to this thing, you click on the create button or the plus sign. I don't know what, all of it's the same. Create. You click on Python when you look for a template. Ignore the title, that's just randomly generated, and then you can click create REPL. So Python template, create REPL, and that's the one you got to do right now.
AJ, can we label it whatever we want?
The title?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, great. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Don't worry, that's just completely auto-generated. Not too important, so you don't have to worry too much about that. Okay, so everyone do that. And then I'm going to show you, actually look at my screen for 1 second before you guys lead off from me. So this is what happens when you create your REPL. Okay. And inside the middle panel, it's called main.py. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to slide this over just because I don't need it. So it's just not too important, but just slide over just so you guys can see it better. So what I'm going to focus on is the main.py panel and then the console. And then there's a run button. So there's three things we're going to look at: main.py, the run button, and console. So main.py, we're going to start by doing our first statement. It's going to be print. And don't worry, you'll get to this. Hello world. That's just going to be the general first statement. And I'm going to click on the run button. And it's going to show hello world here. So what has happened here? Print, when I inside the main.py, that's going to be where I write my code. And then when I click run, that is equivalent to me clicking on an app icon on my phone. That's going to open up the app. So when you click on Instagram and it opens up, that's the equivalent of clicking the run button. And for our app that we just created, this is going to be the most simple app we can create. And it's simply a print statement. And so whatever we write inside these quotation marks, we're going to see in our console. So why don't you guys go do that now? So let's see, what was I saying? So step number one, we're speaking. So the whole goal of exercise number one is what we want to do is we want to get our app to talk to us. Because if we can get our app to talk to us, then we can get it to communicate to us. We can get it to communicate to us. We can listen to what it's thinking, right? That's the concept. So go ahead and do that. And why don't you guys start with exercise number one? When you guys are done with exercise number 1, let me know and we will move forward from there. Chantel, what I want you to do, I'll go back again just so you can see it. So inside your Replit, Chantel, you want to click on the create button. There's also a plus button over here if you want to use that, but it's anything with a plus button. When you click it, then you want to click the Python template. So then you're telling Replit, I want to code in this language. Once you select that, ignore the title that's just randomly generated for you, and then you'll be able to create this REPL. Okay? Let me know if you need any help, but that's all you have to do. Anyone have any questions? Should be working on exercise number 1. And you guys can, if you have any questions, let me know. Let me know when you're done in the chat. Awesome, Edwin. Oh, you got it fast. Very good.
Wait, are we supposed to be sharing our screen?
No, just let me know
Oh.
when you're done.
Okay.
A lot of people are done already. All right, man, you guys are pretty good. So I'm going to give you a little tip. One of the things that I'm doing with you guys, I'm teaching you guys using pattern recognition. So if you guys learn this really quickly, it means your pattern recognition is really good. It's a little secret to what I'm doing here. You want to talk about the .py extension? What's your question? Do you want to know what that means? Why do we have them? Okay, so there's a question out here. What is the .py extension? So this is how it works. So you have a file on your computer, right? And when you open it, if we didn't have these dot extensions, the computer wouldn't know what to do with it. So what we do is we add these .py extensions. And then what happens is that when we do that, the computer knows, oh, okay, you have this application called Microsoft Word, and it claims ownership over the doc extension. So when you double click your Microsoft Word document, it's going to know I'm going to open this file using Microsoft Word. .py is the same thing. .py is saying you have a Python file and it's just text, but if you double click or you run it, then the computer knows how to read this file because we know it's Python. And that's all it is. So what you guys don't understand is, to a computer, all files look like gobbledygook. It's just like just a bunch of data information, and it doesn't know how to understand it or translate it. But once you have that .py, that document or .xl, then it knows I'm going to open the application and then use that application to read how that file works. So it's kind of giving that kind of context. Does that make sense? Good question, though. All right. I feel like we're going to move on. All right. So now we got the computer to talk to us. That's step number 1. Step number 2, what we want to do is create memory. We got to get the computer to talk to remember what we're saying, right? Now, a lot of people say, oh, do I need to be great at math in order to do coding? No, you don't. If I were to do my old math problems, I would be terrible at them because I haven't practiced math for a long time. I've been coding for a long time, but my math skills have deteriorated dramatically. So that means that there's no correlation. Why do they teach you math to be good at coding? I don't know. I don't understand that myself. It's something I've taught many people how to code, never taught them math, and they were exceptional at it. So I can say with 100% confidence that math is not required. With that said, the people who have a really big distinct advantage to coding, I feel, are the people who understand Excel. So if you know Excel or have ever used it, then you immediately you're already at mile 15 or mile 20 as opposed to everyone else at the starting line, because you can visualize data, which is something that takes practice. But if you can do that, then you already understand the concept of a database very well. So what we're going to do here is we're going to use variables. And that's what something we use in algebra. And what it is like, you remember x equals 5, y equals 3, and then you would do like, what's x plus y? That's what we're using in variables. What we're doing here is we want to now store information in variables. So this is what we're going to do. I'm going to go and do the first one. All right. So what we're going to do is this. So we have name equals Michael Jackson, the greatest pop star of all time. Print name, and then print quotations name. So I'm going to give you guys a question. What do you guys think these two lines of code will print? Someone make a guess. What do you guys think these two lines of code will print? Don't worry, you don't have to be right. Okay. Michael Jackson, but what do you think both of these lines will print? So we have two lines of code. What do you guys think? So someone said Michael Jackson and then name. Oh, that's good. You guys are good. So you guys are already ahead of the game. So yes. What's the difference? So let's go run it and see. Actually, let me comment this out. If you want to comment something else, you put a hashtag in front of it. Okay. But what that means is that then that code won't run anymore. See, hello world doesn't exist anymore. Okay. All right. So we have name equals Michael Jackson, print name, and then print name. Yeah, Tai Jung is right. So yes, if you do not have quotation marks, that means it is using it as a variable. If you have quotation marks, then it means it's going to print it literally. What you're telling me to print, I'm going to print this literally. So this represents a string, which is like text data. And this represents the variable. And variables are very important. Again, number two on the thing that we are learning, number two, because it is something we use all the time. We use it to store information, and it's a lifeblood of coding. It's almost like blood, right? It's like the red blood cells where it moves oxygen all over the place. For coding, the blood is moving data, not oxygen. So this allows us to store this value here. And so if we ever want to change it to something like Selena Gomez, it will print Selena Gomez and name. So we have her name stored here. Super valuable and very important. And yes, Corey, you're very good. You guys are all very good. So why don't you guys continue on with exercise number 2, and let me know when you guys have any questions. Oh, wait, before I leave you guys, one more tip. So imagine you have this text, right? So I'm gonna give you guys a little hot tip here. So you guys have this text and you want to comment it out. I told you guys you can use a hashtag in the front, and then that will comment it out. But there's a little quick tip too. If you guys want to do this without writing hashtag for every line you have, you can highlight your lines. And then if you have a Windows, you press Control ? If you're on a Mac, you press Command ? And then it will toggle. You can press it multiple times and it will toggle your code. So if you want to comment out a lot of code, you just highlight the code and then you can Command or Control, depending if you're on Windows, and then ? And then you can either uncomment it or commented. Yeah, it's actually /, but I find that a lot of people don't know. A lot of people get confused with / and \, so I'd say question mark. It is inaccurate. Technically, it is the / because we're not pressing shift, but I think it's easier for people to figure that out. But good catch, Brian. All right, here we go. Let me hook you up. So, Jesualdo, or is it Jesualdo? I don't know what it is. What I want you to do is I want you to get awesome, Jesualdo. Okay, go into there's a link on here for Replit, and that's going to be your. I'll just give it to you. And that's going to be where you're going to be coding. So what I want you to do is first create an account with Replit, and then once you create an account, find this plus create button. Anything that's a plus button. So this is a plus button. So you want to press the plus create. Click on Python. So that's going to select the template. You can ignore the title; it's irrelevant. And then you click create REPL. Once you do that, it's going to create a REPL. So you press the plus create. Find Python in your template, and you press the create button, and then that will give you something that looks like this. And when you have something like this, Jesualdo, all right, got it. Very good. When you get something like this, Jesualdo, what you do is you're going to be writing your code in the main.py panel. Okay. So in this panel, this is where you're going to be writing your code. Once you finish writing your code, you click run. So I'm going to uncomment this to bring my code back into my code, or else it doesn't run. Once I run this in, click run, and boom, inside my console, I will get the results of whatever my code is doing. So the way you want to kind of visualize this is that this is your code. These are telling you, this is telling the computer what to do. And then pressing the run button is like clicking on Instagram on your phone application. When you do that, then it's going to open up the program and do all sorts of things like, oh, let me get the latest Instagram posts from all the people you're following. And so these are just a set of instructions. And so this run button is just doing the same thing, just a more simplified version of what you usually do. Okay. Let me know if you have any questions. So someone asked, what's the difference between a coding language being object-oriented programming versus the coding language supporting object-oriented programming? Not much. One is, I mean, the whole concept is one is designed to use object-oriented programming, and another one has kind of hammered it in. With that said, you know, I know object-oriented programming is a great buzzword, but it's not nearly as important as you would think it is today. We actually don't use it as often as we do as much anymore. We use it, but it's not as it's not nearly as critical. Yeah, I mean, we do use it. That's not okay. So my whole thing is that, okay, let me kind of give you a little quick summary on why object-oriented programming is useful. object-oriented programming is useful because it allows us to have reusable parts. So before the Industrial Revolution, we had to create custom parts for everything. And then after Industrial Revolution, we started standardizing things like, I mean, you could think of like a Phillips head screwdriver, a flathead screwdriver. Now you have these two screwdrivers, you can effectively screw in almost anything, right? So standards are really powerful because it allows us to make assumptions, not have like so many different screwdrivers in order to get one thing built. And that is what object-oriented programming did for us in terms of having reusable parts so that we don't have to have code being repeated everywhere. What we're allowed to do now is that we can architect code so that it's nice and clean and can be reused. And that way, the big thing is that with code, I mean, when you're dealing with a big application, it could be like 1 million lines of code. Like it's not crazy to say that. And to be able to manage that, extremely difficult, because imagine you have code that's being repeated everywhere. So you're trying to get things that are not repeated. You want to have things that are flexible. You want things to grow with the ideas, and object-oriented programming is instrumental to that. So Python is intrinsically object-oriented programming. I think that's a really good point that Brian said. And that's another reason why Python is excellent. I can give you a million reasons why we use Python first. And it's a really great starting language. I definitely 100% recommend it. Yeah, good questions. If you guys have any other questions, feel free to ask. Now's a great time. I mean, you have me at your disposal. When you guys are done, let me know. So Roy asked, can Replit be used as a programming tool, or is this just dedicated for training and sampling? Definitely, it can be used as a programming tool. When we use it all the time. If you're going to ask me, am I going to use it at work? Probably not. But it has all the needs that will give you so that you can create something significant and valuable. The reason why I wouldn't use it at work is because I need something a little bit more high powered. Replit is just great to get started. That's why we started here today, to get you guys coding really quickly. You don't have to install stuff in like an application on your computer. Also, what's a standard program terminal companies use? People use VS Code a lot today. That's the most popular one, but don't worry about that. Don't waste your time on these type of questions. I mean, it's not a bad question or anything, but the more important thing than which terminal and project program to use is getting your hours in. So I really want to emphasize that coding takes time to learn. And because of that, if you wrestle with questions like, oh, am I working on the right program? You're missing the opportunity to get better. And if you want to get better, you got to get your time in, because coding is a challenging language to learn. And you could spend your time asking questions like, this is the right program, but it wouldn't even matter, because you can move from Replit to VS Code like this and nothing changes. Like it's almost just like, do I want, am I going to use Microsoft Word or Google Docs or something? Nothing really changes there. So it'll be really quick. So Taijong asks, how far would we start learning different imports? I don't know the exact term from it. Learning imports. So you want to know, is your question, how far along in your development process will it be before you start learning imports? And which different imports do we learn, such as Django? Imports are not what you're not trying to learn the imports. Is that your question? So imports are not super. I don't know what you think imports are, but imports are just kind of like what it is that, okay, when you start coding, the default package Python gives you is just here, this is what most people use on their everyday life, use this. But if you want to use something special, then we use an import. So import doesn't really take much time to learn. What you need to master is the ability to solve a problem using coding. So that is where, like, you know, I'm going to give it to you right now. Like, these questions I'm giving you are breadcrumbs. Like, imagine you're Hansel and Gretel, and I'm leading you with breadcrumbs, and I'm having you solve bigger and bigger problems over time so that soon you're able to solve problems that are very complicated on your own. So that's the more important skill you want to develop, and that's what you want to do. Import part is not super important because you can learn that like really quickly, and that's not super important. But again, what you want to do is be able to master coding. So if we were put this in terms of Spanish, if what you want to do is not focus on what book or dictionary you're reading, but more like, if I said something to you, would you be able to respond? And maybe you don't understand everything I'm saying. Maybe you understand 40% or 60%, but you want to first develop that ability to listen so you can comprehend what they're saying and then respond. And maybe your grammar is not perfect yet, but you want to get that conversational muscle working. And that's what I'm saying with coding. So with coding, get your conversational muscles working. You want to get that working. You want to keep practicing. The more you practice, then soon your understanding of, you know, Spanish will increase, and your ability to respond will increase and become more and more accurate over time. So that's that. You can edit in Notepad, but doesn't know anything about the language. I started using PyCharm and JetBrains and IntelliJ to run and remember that you just log in limits back and forth on the machine. Yeah. Yep. So yeah, you can use anything. And yeah, that's why I'm kind of trying to lead you guys away from the IDE, because when you move back and forth the stuff, you know, it's like this. A lot of times I talk to people and I'll ask them, oh, so how long have you been considering coding? The general answer is like 1 to 2 years, 5 years, 10 years. And then when I asked them, and then they asked me, how long did it take to code? And then because they only want to learn how to code in 3 months. And I think that's the disconnect here. So a lot of times people like will say, oh, they'll spend 1 to 2 years considering coding and doing all this research on what the right IDE and programs to use and all this stuff. And they'll be very patient on that regard, but then impatient in terms of when they apply themselves to learn how to code. But that should be reversed. You should be impatient about taking action, right? If you want to learn how to code, start now, because it's like a tree. The best time to learn how to code is 20 years ago. The second best time is today, right? You want to get fast and start applying yourself and being actionable today. And then be patient with the results, because like speaking Spanish, it takes time and it takes effort. Great job, Sierra. So, you know, these type of questions are great, but they are also very seductive in a way that it makes you feel like you're making progress without doing anything. And you don't need to be on the right IDE. You don't even need to learn the right language or framework, but you do need to start coding. And that's going to be taking time. So get started really quickly. There's no sense in waiting. I mean, if you think about it financially, let's say that you can double your salary by just saying I can code, right? So let's say you go from 50, you go to 100, right? So $50,000 a year plus extra. So imagine you add $50,000 extra a year, that's like what was that? 5,000 a month or 3 to 5,000, whatever, right? What, 3 to 5,000 a month, right? That's an extra 3 to 5,000 a month. So every day you delay coding is costing you 3 to 5,000 a month. So you want to think about it like that, because delaying action delays the result. And so the result does take time, and you do need to grind a bit. Any other questions?
AJ, I had a question actually. So this year I'm trying to like really like get down with my coding skills to like just better my negotiation with tech jobs. For the day-to-day and on like weekends, what would you suggest doing just like every day as a way to really ingrain it? Like what type of like what would you do so it becomes kind of like second nature, like simply opening up a Word doc and typing? Like what type of projects, I guess, to begin with?
So that's a very complicated question. There's a lot of people who want to get in the industry but can't get in for a very good reason. And the big thing is that a lot of people can code a little bit, but they can't code well. So let me kind of clarify it. There are 4 stages to coding, and you're trying to get to stage 3, okay? So stage 1 is you can read code. This is, most people in this world are stage 0. They can't read code at all. Then stage 1, if you can start to read code and kind of make sense of what it is, that's stage 1. That's pretty good. You're already a technical person. Stage 2 is when you can modify code. So modifying code means that, I'm sure you guys know this, like I used to have a message board and I could like change little things, change the banner, change like, like the remove columns and stuff. I couldn't add anything really, but I knew how to modify things, modify what is existing. So that's stage 2. A lot of people get stuck here. You need to get to stage 3. Stage 3 is when you can write code. So what that means is that if I give you a task, can you solve that problem? So going back to the message board idea, if someone were to say, I want to change the way this message board works, I want to have it do sort a different way and have, the top hits or whatever, add a whole new feature. That's stage 3, writing code. And I couldn't do that back then. But you have to get to that point. You have to get to the point that I can give you a task and then you can do it. Stage 4 takes a couple of years to get to, but this is when you can start to architect systems. And so this is where, if you want to create an iOS from scratch, if you want to create a iOS system app that speaks with a e-commerce system, you can do that. These are architectural things where you can actually get systems to kind of connect and work with each other. So again, your goal is to stage 3. And if you want to do that, you do have to practice a lot. It's really difficult for me to go and say, this is the prescription and, go in and learn it. Like imagine I were to say like, do that for like, learning Spanish. It doesn't really, you need a learning path to be more clear. But let me tell you what we do at Popcorn Robot. So at Popcorn Robot, like I said, if you look at these problems, they are actually a really good example of how I'm teaching people. So when I teach people from scratch with 0 coding experience, I have plumbers. One of my students is a baggage handler. So these are people with 0 technical experience, okay? And what you do is you're creating a trail of breadcrumbs. And each problem grows in complexity. Each problem grows in complexity. And each problem adds in coding. And I keep doing this until your code gets bigger and bigger and bigger. And soon you're dealing with code that's thousands of lines of code and then tens of thousands of lines of code. And then you learn how to work with teams, and then you start to do even work on real consulting projects. So that's what we do. If you were to ask me to like follow someone else's curriculum, I'll be honest with you, I haven't been impressed with anyone's curriculum. This is why I was led to creating my own. And this method has been very successful with people who are not technical, and they are breaking into the industry even though they're not naturally technical people. So that's what we do. And two things that we practice that most people don't do. So again, we're mentorship. So when you come to our class, we will actually walk you through your problems. So when you get stuck, Edwin, you're going to be like, all right, I got a problem. I don't know how to get through it. One of the things we train you that no other school does train you, and I don't know why, is we train you how to overcome problems. So what we do is let's say you get stuck on a problem and you have an error and it says like, name is not defined or something. We're going to actually show you how to read the question, read the error messages, how to decipher it, and then turn that into information so that can lead you to where the problem is. So that's step number one. We're going to teach you how to solve problems. And then step number two is we're going to teach you build order, because that also is the number one thing that prevents new coders from progressing forward. So let me give you a question. How many of you guys have been like, oh, I studied coding and then I wanted to create something, but I don't know where to get started? That is because you don't have a build order. And so what we do is we'll train you how to take a big problem and deconstruct it into small problems. So that's what we do at Popcorn Robot. I don't know how to tell you to do it self-learning wise. I haven't been able to figure that out. When I created Popcorn Robot, the whole concept was to create a self-learning path, but that was something that on a personal level, I failed at doing, because I realized we needed humans to guide you through the process so that you're able to overcome anything. And so once you get to a certain event horizon threshold, then you can solve any problem. So let me give you an example. We teach our coders, now most schools will teach coders 4 different languages, 5 different frameworks, all this stuff. But we don't do that. We only teach you 1 language, 1 framework. In fact, we don't really need to, because we will teach you how to solve problems so effectively that when we give you something else, you'll be able to pick it up like that. It'll be like not even a speed bump. It'll just be boom, you'll be like going right through it. So we have students who are running consulting projects right now, and they are doing a migration for a live company, moving millions of dollars in product in a technology they have never used, in a software they have never used, and they are killing it. So this last week, we did a showing to a client, and the client was like, my God, this is so good. We regret going with another company for another thing. So that's what we do. We train you guys how to overcome problems so that you learn how to problem solve at a very elite level. And so going back to your question, it's very difficult for me to solve that problem because I only know how we do it in Popcorn Robot. And I'm telling you the answers that we found. And so we do it by using breadcrumbs to gain your ability to learn programming. And then we train your problem solving skills and how to overcome errors and debug problems. And then we also do a lot of build order so that when you are encountering a problem, a huge problem, how do I create an iPhone app from scratch? You will learn how to deconstruct and start this problem. And so at one point, you can tackle any problem because you just know, all right, now I need to do this. Okay, I know how to attack this. And so we train you how to do that. And those are the skills you need to survive. Because if you don't know how to problem solve, if you don't have a good build order, then you'll always get stuck. And so that's what you need to learn. So I'm telling you the skills you need to learn to get there. How you want to get there is up to you, but I'm telling you how we do it at Popcorn Robot. Make sense?
Right on. Thank you. I appreciate the answer.
Cool. Someone had a question? Where is it?
AJ, how important is the design, user interface design aspect of it later down the road? Like when is it useful to start learning the design user interface versus the coding part of it? Because the coding part of it is the functional, like how do we make this car work? But then later, Like when does that step come in to play?
So when do you need to learn how to design? Okay, so the first thing you want to do is learn how to code. Okay, so there are different stages to this. The first thing you have to do is if someone gives you a task, you should have to be able to get it to work. The second stage is to have as few bugs as possible. The third stage is that's when you start to go, things have to look good. So the look good is the third stage because, and these stages are predicated on the previous because even if your software looks good but doesn't work, then nobody cares, right? And then even if your software looks good, but then there's so many bugs, nobody cares. So you need to be able to first accomplish these stages and then focus on the UI. And so then the UI is very important in the sense that it is how people connect with your software. Because if you have a great software, okay, we all know what terrible software looks like. So that's why it's really important if you can connect with people, if you can create a software that people want to use, like TikTok, which is so innovative, then it makes people want to use your software. And so then that amplifies your value to a company. So I really want to emphasize everything that we're teaching you guys here. If you guys want to travel, if you want to work remotely, have time flexibility, get a better pay, all this stuff, you need to do one thing. You need to bring immense value to the market. And so UI is just one of those things. And you could do it using data. You can do it whatever. It doesn't really matter. But UI is just one of those things. And if you bring in the art, if you bring in the great talent that you have and you can solve bigger problems than other people can't, then you become a very valuable commodity to the market. And then you get to dictate what you want because so many companies are coming at you for demand. So I've been in the industry for a very long time. So I have a big network. So it's very easy for me to get a job right now. And it's because I can bring a lot of value. And so because of that, I leverage the jobs that I want in a way I want. So for me, I value time. I'm not really a money guy. I need a certain amount of money and then I'm good. But I value time more than money. And so for me, once I get 6 figures, I'd rather take time. And so what I would do is I would work anywhere from 3 to 6 months in the year because I'd rather take an extended vacation. And I would do that by bringing the value and then basically I quit and then I say, do you want to rehire me later? That's cool. If not, I'm going somewhere else because I have so many options. And so that's what you want to do. You got to bring your value up in the market. And that becomes in with being a great coder, having great UI, and doing whatever you can do to become a valuable asset. Does that kind of make sense?
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay, cool. Let's see what else. What if you get to stage 3, but you have very poor communication skills? If you have poor, again, it's about value. One of the things, there's 3 things that make a good person valuable to a job, right? You can narrow it down to 3 things. One is are you good, right? So someone who's good can solve problems that someone who is not so good at, right? So if you give me a problem, I can probably solve it better than you. Faster, cleaner, and I can solve bigger problems that you can't solve because there's things that you just get overwhelmed with, right? So, and then so you have to be good. You have to be reliable, meaning like, do you deliver on time? So if someone gives you a feature, do you bust through their deadline or do you hit the deadline and match the deadline? So that's speed, right? And the third thing is you got to be a good teammate because coding is a team game. So poor communication is something you need to work on because you want to be, sociable because we all want to work with people who are nice to work with. That is something we want to be able to communicate with them. If you want to critique them and say something around the code and they blow up every time, then that's just not a good teammate. If you have stuff where people don't want to they're always trying to avoid responsibility, that's not as good of a teammate as somebody who's always like, yeah, I'll go do it. I'll take care of that and that type of stuff. Okay. Will we be doing any more coding? No more coding on this presentation. This is the end. The name of the school. How much is it? School is Popcorn Robot. It costs $250. Sorry, let me give you guys some link. It costs, the way it works is that it's $250 a month for one class a week, or $550 a month for 3 classes a week. But more importantly, I do recommend, if you guys, the more important thing is just to see if you guys even like it, like coding. So I say just try booking a free class, and then you can actually just see, is this something for me or not? Because most people don't even think coding is for them. They try it. So that will start slow and then figure out if you want it. Do you know how hard or easy it is to get an entry-level job? So getting an entry-level job is challenging, and we have a strategy to do it. I want to emphasize something. Getting your first job is the most difficult job you will get in any industry. And we have a strategy to do it. First, we're going to give you guys a banging portfolio. Number 2, I kind of mentioned this before, but one of the things we're doing is we are actually running consulting experience with our students. So our students are getting paid to learn. And so what they're doing is they're accumulating work history. And so since the first job is the most difficult to get, by the time they're done with us, they're actually not getting their first job. They're getting a second job. And believe me, you get the second job, it's a lot easier. And then the third thing we're doing is we're going to train you guys how to infiltrate the market. So let me tell you this. For 8 years, I have been searching for a strategy about how to apply to jobs and get jobs into, like, break into the market, right? And every school I talked to, because I talked to a lot of people in the education system, every school I talk to does the same strategy. They tell their students, apply to as many jobs as possible. You should be applying to like 50, 100 jobs a day. And that's how you know you want it. That is the stupidest strategy you can come up with. It makes no sense. It's basically someone who has no idea what they're doing, and they're telling someone to do what they're doing, which is so stupid. It makes no sense. So we have a strategy that's going to get you guys into communication with a school or with a company that will break you guys in and distinguish you guys from the pile. Because you guys have to understand something. I created an entry-level position for 1 week. 1 week, I only had it open for 1 week. And I received over 700 applications. In 1 month, that's almost 3,000 applications in 1 month. How will you distinguish yourself in a pile of 3,000 resumes? How many people do you think I can interview? It's not going to work if all you're doing is praying and hoping somebody pulls you out of the lottery. That's not a strategy. That's what idiots do. You have to come up with a strategy. And we came up with a really good strategy that is breaking through and helping people get into the industry. So you have to think very hard. How do you get it? How do you break in and make an impact on these companies so that you're a person, not just a PDF in a stack of 3,000 resumes? So you got to think about it that way. So that's what we do. We give you great portfolio. We're giving you work history, which is probably the most valuable thing you can get, by the way. And then we're going to show you how to break into the industry using like LinkedIn. And it's a really great technique that we came up with. So it's really awesome. Entry levels jobs are a lot about how good you are and be able to communicate the technology you know and the project you've worked on. Absolutely. You need to be able to communicate to that. And let me tell you, one of the first things that they do when they're asking you questions. Okay, so I'll tell you this. What you guys don't realize that when we're receiving these applications, we're trying to sort out from the posers. There's a lot of people who pretend to know how to code, but they can't code. So if we give you a problem and you can't solve it, and then just like, why are we hiring you if we have to handhold you through the whole thing? That is the problem in the industry. I promise you. It's not my words. You can talk to anyone from any industry, from anyone from any working in the industry. And so what it is that they need to see that when we talk to you, you know what you're doing, you know what you created. You can't be a mindless zombie when you're submitting your portfolio. You can't be someone who okay, let's say you gave me your portfolio and I asked you, why did you make this decision? If you can't give me a good reason, If you can't tell me the whole story of how you created that, I will know that you don't know what you're doing. You just copied and pasted somebody else's work. So we need to know that you make conscious decisions. We need to know that you're actively thinking. And then we can see why you went down this path, why you didn't go down this path, and what you were trying to do. And if you can answer these questions, that puts you in the top elite percentile, because most people cannot. So that's where you want to get to. And yes, you do need to be able to communicate that stuff when you're working on a project. Jennifer asks, I've been working as a real estate appraiser for 20 years. Can someone 49 be able to get into a position? Is there age discrimination? I'm pretty sure I can do the work. You know, people, let me tell you something about this industry that's very different than the education industry or any industry I've ever been into. These people don't care about your age, sex, gender, anything. They just don't care. They are desperate for results. That's it. They are desperate for results. There are not enough coders in this world who can do the work. Less than 2% of the population has a coding job. There is way more jobs available than the amount of people who can code. The problem is people go to school, but they can't code because they can't get to that stage 3 of writing code that we were talking about. They stay at stage 2, can modify code. They can take someone's other work and then tweak it. But if you ask them to create a feature from scratch, they can't do it. So if you can get to that stage 3 where you can write code, I give you a task and you can make it from scratch, that's going to mean you can deliver results. If you have a strong work ethic, nobody cares. That's all they care about. They're desperate for people who can solve problems. And you specifically as a real estate appraiser are in a very specific advantage because you understand things about the real estate market a developer like me can never understand. So you have that advantage in the sense that you can create something that only you understand that is valuable to the market. So let me give you an example. My student, the one that doubled her income as a marketer, there was a developer who was working on a marketing software. And he was working on the software for 2 years, could not push it out. He quit, and the software was stuck in limbo. My student said, do you mind if I get a crack at this? So she goes and looks at it, and guess what? What he was struggling on was something that did not matter to her as a marketing client. I don't know, there's so many jobs for you guys marketers, but it didn't matter to them. It was something that took him 30 seconds. He was trying to sort out the campaign clients or something automatically using AI or something. And she was like, I can do this in 10 seconds. Why are you getting stuck on this? So like a surgeon, she amputated that piece out, released it in 14 days, she did in 14 days what that developer couldn't do in 2 years, and became a huge hero using work that wasn't even hers. That's the advantage you have over me, because I don't understand what it's like to work as a real estate appraiser. I don't understand your problems. So when I solve the problems, I tend to solve them in a way that is good for programmers. But you, having feet in both worlds, you can solve problems in a way that nobody can solve, in a simple, elegant way that nobody can design. So you guys, again, I want to emphasize, every industry is desperate for coders. And you guys can leverage that, because not only are you going to be a real estate appraiser, you're going to be a coder. And that puts you in the top 1%, because you're going to be the best real estate appraiser who can code. And that makes you extremely valuable, and why you can amplify your value on a way extremely high. So I want to emphasize that. You are not recreating a career, you're amplifying your career. And so by doing that, you can go into real estate and create real estate software. You can go to any real estate software and just go, I've been using your software for 20 years and I can code. Imagine that selling point. Hugely attractive. And so all of you guys can do the same thing with whatever career you guys have. You are building it and amplifying it like a blowhorn. And that's what coding does. You don't need to start from scratch. You can if you want, but you can just amplify it. And so coding is going to give you that opportunity. Create a group. Anyone want to learn how to code there? Very good. Yep. You need teamwork. That's one of the things. If you guys don't have teamwork, you got to understand network is your net worth. We're a big believer in that. You need to be around players, other players. So the bigger your community, the more serious they are, the better. You want to be around A players. You want to be around people who are going to be penetrating the industry and making major damage. Network is super important. If you can't build on your own, join someone else's network. That's what Popcorn Robot is. It's just a network. We're a community. We all know each other. You have this relationship with another A player. When they rise, you rise with them. So I started industry 20 some years ago. So guess what? The people I started out with, they're directors of Capital Group. They're vice presidents of huge banks. They are all these things. They're creating their own apps. They're all over the place. My mentor is working on a software for a hospital group, and he's charging over $300 an hour. That's over $500,000 a year, right? So you kind of rise with the tides. So for me, if I need to get a job, I just go ask my mentor, who I'm always his number two, and I'm just like, hey, can you mind work with you? Can I get like $300 an hour? And he's like, yeah, sure. I don't want to do all my stuff myself. It's so much easier when you have these A players moving with A players. So it's easy with me, and I have my reputation, and they trust me. I can't pass that to you guys. Just like you guys I can't just go sleep in your house with your family because I don't know you. You guys don't know me. So you need to develop that network. So yes, groups are super important. I really want to emphasize that.
Think about do you have like a Slack group or a community where we can like connect within this group, or do we have to sign up to something?
We're a community that is together. So we do focus on our community because we work really hard on the community. It's not open to the public. It is private because it is important. So we're not about quantity. We're about quality. So we have events. We have people come over to my house. We are using each other's software so you can actually see what people are creating. And so that's a very different relationship than if this is just open to the public and everyone can come in. We don't want everyone. We only want A players. And that's what we're doing in our network. So that's what we're doing. You guys can do how you want to do, but it's about getting the top players. If you have 100 people who never be able to penetrate the market, never work in the industry, what value is that? So we're cultivating A players. So that's why it's not open to the public, and it's by design. What thing is about your ability and how fast you are to pick up new technology? Absolutely, it is. Coding is about your ability, how well you code and fast and pick up new technologies. 100%, 300 to 400 appraisals a year, super valuable because Let me tell you, Jennifer, if you know how to write code, I don't know what appraisal means in the sense like on a that's your advantage. You can use your knowledge of appraisals to maybe streamline the process. You understand technology, you understand what computers can do. Boom, you can make that stuff move out really quickly and streamline it, sell that as a software or even sell it as a service. Huge amount of potential. Breaking in. Is it a certification program or does it matter? My program is a certification program. It is not accredited. I have a very good reason for that. because I am in the traditional university system. I teach graduate courses at UCLA. I'll tell you why I'm not accredited. It's too slow. The problem with the accredited systems is that they're teaching you outdated stuff. We all know this. You go to any university, they're teaching you stuff that they're using 15 years ago. What's the point of that, right? So the problem with accreditation is it takes 5 years to get accredited. And if you make any changes, it costs an additional 3 to 4 years to get those changes approved. Imagine teaching you technology that's 5 years old, and that's cutting edge on the realm of traditional universities. I have a lot of problems with our course in UCLA. I've talked to the director about this, and when my answer came back, I said, it's too slow. We're teaching things that are wrong. They weren't able to move like we can move. So that's why I created Popcorn Robot. It's a certification system. It is not accredited by design. It's too slow. We can't teach you outdated stuff. We change our stuff immediately. We're implementing a system to teach you how to code with AI. We can't wait 3 years for this to happen. We got to do it now because we want you guys to access that information now. So AI just came out. It's still new, but we're already implementing it into our system because we move really fast. We move as fast as the industry moves because I know what it means to be fast. So we don't want to teach you old stuff. And at UCLA, I'm forced to teach old stuff. I'm forced to use old stuff. That's just the way it works. Not my fault. So I hate it, but that's what we do. Do you actually get a contract? Yes, we do get contract work. So again, I've been working in the industry for a very long time. So I have a reputation and I can get contract work. And so the difficult thing is that for you guys to get contract work, it's very difficult because you don't have a work history, you don't have trust. But for me, I can get it because I can leverage my trust. I'm putting my reputation on the line for my students. Since I'm watching my students very carefully, I know which ones can perform and which ones cannot perform. So I'm only going to give the ones that can perform. If you're not able to perform, I have a very actionable process for you to get there. And as long as you do the work, you put in the effort, you will get there. I promise you that I can guarantee. So we have contract work and they are working and they are getting stuff done and they are getting paid for it. So they are getting paid to learn in our curriculum. Know of any mentoring opportunities for test automation engineers? Not off the top of my head. How long is the training period? So the training period for Popcorn Robot, 1 year if is fast and about 2 years if you're about average competency. So it really depends on what you're coming in with. People who have Excel exposure tend to learn faster. So if you want to, depending on how technical you are, you can move faster. The thing about this course that's very different than UCLA, we move you at one pace, but here it's self-paced. So you can move as fast as you want. Some of my students code 3 days a week plus outside of class, and they move really fast, even though they weren't technical. So that is something that we wanted to do. Self-paced is better because you can turn up the speed when you're going faster, and then you can turn down the speed when you're not going as fast. So, I mean, let's say like you're struggling with something, you can slow it down and even repeat something if you need to. So that is something we do, and we're really proud about that. What do you mean by problems and coding challenges? So you guys, if you guys want to start with problems, one thing you could do is like Code Wars, Leak Code. I'll write it in. Code Wars, Leak Code, Hacker Rank. Any of these are good, but the one weakness of these things is it doesn't build you up into competency on a bigger level. Like you can do this and you'll be able to solve algorithms, but what you need to do is you need to get to the point where you can create big projects, because it's not about algorithms. It's about size. You need to be able to work with size because size changes everything. It changes the dynamic of everything. So you working on a 400 line program works completely different than a 10,000 line program. And you can have a lot of problems in your 400 line program that does not get exposed until you work on a 10,000 line program. So that's the whole thing. That's what object-oriented programming is set out to solve, is the size problem. And size is the number one thing you're going to wrestle with. The number two thing you're going to wrestle with when you get into a workplace is teamwork. So we also work with that. That's something you don't get to work with in Code Wars and Leak Code. You need to have teamwork. So what does that mean? Let's say like Alfredo is coding and then I submit coding. How do we put our code together without crashing the system? So these are things that will help you. You need to practice that because it's teamwork. You have to learn how to push and pull. And you have to learn how to contribute and be reliable and be dependable and be fast. And these are all things that are missing if you just do these things. But these things are great ways to get started, and I cannot recommend them enough. Any other questions? They're really good questions, actually. Really, really good questions. And you guys are kind of getting the point to what is a good coder and what it means to be in the industry. You have to be a good problem solver, and that's a real big thing. So again, I'm giving you guys the booking link in the chat. I do recommend you guys book a free class. At the very worst, you can actually just see how it works and just see if the class kind of jives with you. But that's really it. And that's the big thing. Coding, I really want to emphasize something. A lot of people see it as like a checkbox and just keep checking box. Oh, did I learn this? And then now can I get a job? It doesn't really work like that. Coding is like a lifestyle, right? It's like a lifestyle. Imagine you're learning Spanish and you're just like, oh, do I know this word? I know these words. I know this. I know how to make this sentence structure, whatever. That doesn't mean you need to speak Spanish. You need to turn it into who you are. That's why the people who learn and can speak the best Spanish are the ones who learn through immersion. They integrate it into their life. They turn the culture a part of who they are. And coding is no different. When you turn coding into a part of who you are, you look at the world completely different. You start becoming more logical. You start to have a problem-solving structure. You start to be able to break down problems in a very, very logical, methodical way. These are how coding changes your life, and it changes who you are, and you start to solve problems in different ways. See, now I remember I met this girl, and she was saying she spent 2 hours a day cleaning her data for her Excel sheet, and she spent the rest of her day doing her work. That is insane to me because I'm a coder. Because in me, I can solve her problem in 5 minutes. I can just sort this code and sort her data in a way that I want to do it in 5 minutes. That means if I were working her work, what I would do is I would only work 6 hours because nobody can tell the difference, and then take 2 hours off. I get those 2 hours off. So you do that, and that's how coding works. And some people even automate their life, and their employers don't even know about it. And that's what you can do with coding, because you can use code to solve your problems. You can use robots to answer things for you. So that's the power of coding, and it's the most important skill today. It's a new literacy. And with AI coding, that's just going to make us faster and even more valuable. And then again, other industries are hiring coders because they're trying to solve problems and replace people who are doing things by hand, because they're spending 2 hours a day fixing their data. If she was getting paid, let's say she was getting paid $100,000 a year, I don't know, whatever. 2 hours a day is $25,000. That's a lot of money. Think about why these companies, these industries are all desperate to hire coders. And with all your guys' auxiliary skills and experiences, real estate appraisal, whatever, you guys can bring in something, a flavor that no other coder like me, who's only a strict coder, can do. So that's your guys' advantage that you can do over me, because I will never be the #1 real estate appraiser who can code. And that makes you much more valuable and special than me, especially when everyone is desperate to go into the industry and hire coders in that industry. That makes sense? So really good work. I'm really proud of you guys for putting in the effort. And again, book a class, let's check it out. And if not, I can answer any more questions, but if not, we can call it a day. Oh yeah, I'll put it into the meetup. Very good. All right, guys, have a good night and good luck. Take care.